record. Good idea.
Hey everyone, this is Hal Cranmer. You know me. I'm the owner of the assisted living homes where your loved ones are. I'd love to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Bill Lusk, who works in the senior healthcare industry as well. And he brought a really neat product to me that I'd love to show you guys and talk to you about working with your loved one in our homes to use. I've used it with some of our residents in our Goodyear home, and even ones that had some serious cognitive decline were able to use it. It's a brain training kind of application technology, and it seemed to trigger in them memories and everything, and really helped improve their cognition a little. So, Bill, go ahead, and I think people will really like this.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Hal. So my name is Bill Lusk, and I am the Arizona representative from Memory Lane Games. Memory Lane Games is actually a company out of England. They're actually from the Isle of Man, which is an island in the Irish Sea. But it began with two gentlemen basically having discussions in a pub about how they could have a better relationship, better communicate with their mother. They call them mums over there in England. So eventually they decided that they could do that. They discovered that their mums really like looking at pictures. And of course, Peter's mom had dementia, pretty significant. And Bruce's mom, the other founder, she was pretty good, but she was over in Canada, so it was kind of hard for Bruce to keep a relationship going without physically being there. So I've got a presentation. Don't worry, it's not a big long thing. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so here we are, Memory Lane Games. A little bit of trivia before we get started. You see our elephant is our one of our symbols, logos, and that is because there's a saying, an elephant never forgets. And that is actually, there's a lot of truth to that. And the reason being is physiologically, the part of the brain in an elephant that does the long-term memory is actually larger than human beings. And so it's kind of based on survival, but it's just a very interesting note. How it relates to us is we do know with dementia that the longer term memories are in most cases, are the least affected by the disease. And therefore, those are the memories that are held on a little bit longer. And that's for Hal here. So the games are all about triggering positive memories. We have games on pretty much anything. And the great part about it is if we don't have it, we will make you one. So we're always adding games about whatever triggers the positive memories in the residents or the patients who have dementia.
That's what I liked when we tried it, because I could have, a lady from Seattle, so we could have questions about Seattle, or have a lady that likes dancing, so we could have questions about dancing. That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. That very much so. Something they enjoyed in their past that they can no longer participate in. We just made a couple of games. There was a gentleman, and they were kind of having a hard time reaching him. He was kind of sheltered. Well, they found out he used to be a drummer. So we made two games for him. A game about the parts of a drum set, a drum kit, and a game about famous drummers. And therefore he had something that he could relate to. And then they were able to play those games and let him, it really brings people out of their shell.
Well, what's really neat is you can really dive deep and customize it to make a game about a particular person's family, or a particular person's life and events in that life, and things like that. So it's not even just broad categories like drumming. It could be, I don't know, bars that guy drummed in.
Yeah, in
Very fun.
fact, there's a really cool story. And I do want to spend a little bit of time. So we have we have three executives. Is Peter and Bruce founded the company, but I wanted to talk about Brian Hall, who's another one of our executives. Bruce tried. Brian does business development, and Bruce was trying to get him to join his firm. Startup. We needed some experience, and sure enough, Brian's mother had dementia. So Bruce said, "Well, why don't you try our games and let's see what happens?" So they made a game. His mother was from Manchester. They made a game about Manchester, and a picture came up, and it was a picture of Piccadilly. And of course, that was one of the answers. Brian's mom didn't even bother to answer the question. What she did was actually point out a bus stop in the picture and said, "That's where I used to meet your father." And
Wow.
Brian is like, "What? Whoa, what? Really?"
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. As he said, "Yeah, because we met here because this was our shop down the street where my brother worked, where my brother didn't like your father."
Yeah.
Brian is like, he never knew any of this. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, his mother, who was pretty far advanced, she's sitting up straight in her chair. Her eyes are alert. They engaged in a 15, 20-minute conversation about Piccadilly that was led by his mother.
That's
So
great.
his mother basically was back for that
Right.
moment.
Right.
After Brian was done, he went out, got on his phone, and said to Bruce, "Okay, I'm sold. I'm hired. Let's get
Awesome.
started." Yeah.
Moms can be
So,
good salespeople.
yeah. So here's a little way how it works. Now, obviously, we're dealing with people with dementia, so the simplest way we could do this is the best way. And if you noticed here, what happens on these three screens is that if the person chooses the wrong answer, it simply disappears. There's no wrong, guess again, nothing. We don't want anything to upset that person. So basically, you cannot get the wrong answer because it'll just keep disappearing
Mhm.
until the
Great.
final answer, a cockapoo, is left. And that's called error-free learning, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Well,
Okay.
here it is right now, actually, errorless learning. So the way we were told, and we didn't even know this. We had to have a neurologist of quite a pedigree explain this to us. She said, "You know how your uh, games work?" And we're like, "Not really. I mean, we know how they were made technically." But she said, "Let me explain it to you." She had a picture of the human brain dissected this way behind her and dissected the other way behind her. She says, "So the first thing you see is a picture, and the picture provides a visual stimulus, and that's located in this part of the brain. Then, if the picture triggers a memory, that's going to be a cognition stimulant, and that's in this part of the brain. And then, of course, if it's something that they can relate to in their life, there's an emotional stimulus, which is a sensory stimulus in yet another part of the brain. And then, of course, to play the game, you do work the tapping of the keyboard or the screen, which is a motor skill, which again is another part of the game, or the brain rather. Now, so you do one question, and you've got this circular stimulus in the brain, and then you go to the next question, and you get the same stimulus. So it's basically an exercise for the brain. Content proven to engage. Again, here's a picture of Elvis. There's a little story behind this. They were at a memory care cafe in England, and they were playing the games on the computer with some of the residents there. And there's a gentleman named Colin. And Colin had a question. It was actually about Roy Orbison. And Colin said, who was Roy Orbison was actually a better singer than Elvis. Okay, Colin, that's interesting. And Colin sang a little bit of a Roy Orbison song that was on the question. And then he goes, but Elvis had the better manager. Okay, yeah, that's right, Colin. Okay, thank you. And then we're packing up the games. The cafe was over, and here comes his caregiver with a tear in her eye, a happy tear. And they were like, "What's the matter?" He said, "I've been with Colin for 3 months. He's nonverbal." Those are the first sentences I've ever heard from him.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how the game will stimulate that memory.
That's awesome.
So again, we're going to improve the residents' well-being, but what it really does, what we like to see is that engagement between the resident and the family who finds it so difficult to communicate when they're with their family with dementia. The visits are awkward sometimes. There's not a lot to do, especially if like the grandkids are there. The grandkids love playing these games with the grandpa and grandma.
I bet.
They just bring their tablet. Come on, grandma, let's play the game.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that improves the visit like 100%.
Hmm.
Down at the bottom, number 4 here, Hal, this is something I'd like to point out because we're collecting the data and the scoring and everything behind the scenes, again, completely private,
Right.
because we don't even have the person's name. We just have it as
Sure.
resident number 27.
Well, I was just pulling it up to try it on my residents, and I would just ask them questions. I knew some background to each of them, and would just ask them. So the resident doesn't even get anything input. I set it up on my phone and just did it with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the way it would work. We don't have you set up yet with the full blown,
Right.
but we're actually collecting your data, and you'll actually get a monthly report. But where I was going with number 4 is that we can see if all of a sudden we see like a significant change in their scoring of the games, and or we see that they are either not playing the games or they're hitting the not like button on the games. We then send an alert to the care home and say, check on resident number 27 because there may be something wrong.
Right.
And it's an early alert. It could be a UTI. It just could be they're not feeling well. Could be a number of things, but it's good to have that extra pair of eyes
Sure.
on that.
Oh, definitely.
So this was actually done. This is an example of one of our residents actually, or excuse me, one of our clients did this. They put this into their game. If you send us a picture, and it doesn't have to be the picture, it's just a picture of a picture. So you can just take a picture, send it to us. We can create a game out of it. So this is the young lady here is the now an adult with dementia. These are her 2 children. What's the name of your eldest child? Well, the correct answer is going to be Matthew, but you'll see on the next screen, she chooses Matthew, and there's Matthew today.
Awesome.
So you had Matthew as a baby and Matthew what he is today.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure they'd love that.
Yeah. And this is good for people in the care homes. How you'd be interested in this because it kind of asks questions about the daily schedule of the care home. So rather than, they keep asking maybe repetitively, what time is breakfast or who's coming today and when they coming over and over again. If they can get into this game every day at 10 a.m., there's an exercise session with, Gregory.
Right.
We serve breakfast around 8 a.m. So this played will just give them the reinforcement each day where they understand that every time they play this game, they're reminded of these things.
Yeah, the routine is important.
The routines, yeah. Speech and language therapy is really big. We have a person on staff, one of our clinicians that is in Boston named Kate. She uses our game every day for her speech and language therapy patients. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. Sequencing is very big because that's an executive function, which does affect people with dementia. So it tells you in this first slide here, how do we make a cup of tea? What are the steps in process? Word finding here, another word for rock. And again, you can't get it wrong. Eventually, you're going to get it right.
Right.
So here's some product features. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Obviously,
Yeah,
I think,
as we get into it with the
yeah,
residents and families, we can get more into this.
right, because it gets kind of, as you can see, it gets kind of technical here.
Yeah.
There's all the different things a game can benefit. Here's that alert I was telling you about. So we're going to send you alert, decreased performance on 4 of 7 data points versus baseline. So we know what the patient's baseline is. And all of a sudden we see where all of a sudden they're not on that baseline, they're declining for whatever reason. We send you the alert. And again, it's completely private.
That's great.
And here's some pilots that these are from the UK because that's where the company came from.
Yeah.
We've got several, we have some clinical things completed. We have more underway. This is Helen. She is our director of clinical research. So she does a lot of our trials. Very much into the data aspect of the game.
Sure.
This is Kate. She's our speech and language pathologist in Boston.
Okay.
A lot of things not real familiar, with America yet. We're brand new to America, by the way. Arizona is the state we chose because of the high number of people with dementia.
It's a good one to choose. Yep.
And yeah, and then we are working with ASU. We are working with the Mayo Clinic. And we're also trying to get something together with the people at Banner. So Bruce, here's a big story here is that we kind of got invited by accident. Brian met someone from ASU when he was out here in January. She said, you need to apply for this. And this is the MedTech Accelerator. And we applied and we got chosen. There's like 8 companies in the whole world that get chosen for this, and we were one of them.
Awesome.
Not only were we chosen, Bruce, our CEO, came out here for 2 weeks, and we won. So we won the judges selection for the best startup.
All right.
Fantastic. Which opened up a lot of doors. For us.
I bet.
Okay, and then here's just my information here at the end. I'll leave that up for a little bit.
Okay.
And there's just one more piece of data, and Hal, I'll let you ask some questions here, but there was one more piece I wanted to show, but I hadn't made it into a slide yet. But we did a 6-month study, and we found in that 6-month period, this is one of the highlighted findings, 92% of moderate dementia cases at least maintain the severity of dementia over 6 months. So in other words, with the games being played, the ideal thing is to play every day for 20 minutes. We realize that's not always possible, but that's where we see the best results is a daily play.
Okay.
So 92% over that 6-month period we did not record any sort of cognitive decline. Amazingly, 17%, we actually saw the severity of their dementia was reduced. So we can't go around claiming we have a cure and all that.
No, but at least it's improving a little.
The initial findings are very, very encouraging, and it's drawing a lot of attention from a lot of big players.
I bet. It's great.
So Hal, I will go ahead and let you ask if you have any questions here. I know I went kind of fast, but.
Well, I think the one that all my residents are going to ask first is about cost.
So.
And what are they looking at? Or are
it is. We want to make it very affordable. So it is $10 per month.
Yep. And they can play as long as they want for that $10, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And there's a little bit of a free version too that they can try and start out with, right?
Yeah. If you go into the App Store or Google Play, there's
Hmm.
actually two Memory Lane games. There's Memory Lane Games and Memory Lane Games Pro. Well, you won't be able to get into the Pro because the Pro is what we use with all of our care homes and memory care communities. You have to sign up. There's a special code. However, if you just download the Memory Lane Games with the blue elephant, excuse me, the blue background with the white elephant, that's a free version.
Right.
So you don't get all the bells and whistles, but you've got thousands of games you can play.
Yeah, that's what I tried with my residents in Goodyear, and there's plenty to do on that to start with. But I
Yeah.
think customizing it a little more is really nice. And then you said there's an option to actually make it like you were showing for their family or their life or that kind of thing, right? Something very personal to them.
We can make it extremely personal. So we can go ahead and we can make a game very specific to a person's life that will only be, of course, shared on that person's profile. There is a charge for that. It's a one-time charge of $50.
Which still isn't bad at all.
Yeah, and we can make more than one. So if we make a game and after over time, let's get some more questions, we'll do another game. I think we get very specific. Okay, so what year did you get married? And we'll have 1958, 62. Okay, so you pick it. Now the next question is, so what church did you get married in?
Yeah.
St.
No,
Michael's.
right.
Next question, who was your best man?
Hmm.
Just keep on going. And we can do things about, growing up. You grew up on a farm in Red Oak, Iowa. What was your mom's favorite pie that she made?
Right.
Questions like that.
Yeah,
So
no, I
just
think that could
really
trigger
detailed.
all kinds of memories.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be wonderful. And I think also it would help like new people, nurses, medical staff, something like that, if they could even access the game and learn about the person more than you have a UTI or we need to draw some blood or, we got to get your toenails cut, whatever. It's, hey, I'm from Iowa too. It's great to, where in
Yeah.
Iowa are you from? Have those kind of conversations as well.
So
We could,
I was,
they could access some of that.
yeah, I was invited. We're actually doing a trial with Quail Run Behavior right now,
Hmm.
hospital, and they invited me to come and actually with some of their residents, we put on an hour long, basically to try this out. So I sat with a lady we never met before. So I
Hmm.
sit down, she's doing her word search, and I asked her if she wanted to play a game. She said, well, sure, what do you got? And I went through some of the titles. And she said, oh, I grew up on a farm, animals, and I like to cook. Yeah, okay. So we started playing games and she loved it. So we're playing and we're talking. I'm doing, she's doing the talking. I'm just kind of leading the questions in.
Sure.
What do you remember about this? And here we are, two strangers basically, having this great connection. And eventually she said, okay, I've had enough. I want to go back to my word search. She goes back to her word search. And I'm just going to let her. I'm not going to bug her. I'm not going to push her. And then I just give her some time. And here I am going through more games based on what I know from her, what she's already told me. She told me her dad used to fix up cars. So I'm thinking, let me find a game about old cars. So then I go back to her and I said, I found some more games. You want to play a game about cars? Yeah, I'll do that. She puts the word search away and we played and played until basically our hour time was up. And the social worker had to come and basically say, sorry, we
Mhm.
have to, we have to break up now. So
Right.
I filled the whole time with the stranger.
And she wasn't bored at all. She was probably loving it.
She was loving it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it took her mind off of it and off other things. And
Great. I bet it
when
was
I
a
left, she
highlight.
said, bye, Bill. She was,
Oh, awesome.
we
I'm
were
sure it was
friends.
like the highlight of her day. Just having people come in and do that with our residents would be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. We encourage, and we're finding, we're recommending, there's a lot of turnover, especially in the memory care communities. And we're telling communities, this is great when you have brand new people coming in they're not trained yet fully, so this is something they can take and spend time with the residents on and really get to know the residents.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. So next steps, say we've got some families interested, or we set it up for them. Do I just forward you their names, or should they reach out to you directly, or what would be the best way to do this?
No, so we would work through you, Hal,
Okay.
because you or whoever you designate. So if you have a manager of one of the homes that is wants to do it or whatever, we would set it up as to um, we'd give you the Memory Games Pro version,
Okay.
and that has all the bells and whistles on it where we can do all the data. And there's a special code we will give you, and we
Okay.
do that. We have an onboarding call. So
Okay.
my people over in England will do a call with you. We'll go through, how everything works. We'll give you your onboarding code. You can sign into a tablet or tablets, plural, while
Right.
we're on the call, and you'd be up and running.
Okay.
And then
And
you would be the one, or your manager would load profiles of your residents.
okay. Okay. Great. So we'll just gather that data from our
Yeah,
families and everything,
the
and
families that are interested. Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Bill, it's always great to see you. Thanks for showing us this today. I think it's really going to help our resident. I'll be in touch of who we can get signed up, see who we can help.
Sure, Hal, thank you. And again, anybody has any questions, I'm always here. Here's my information at the bottom here.
Yep. Yeah, you're
And
very responsive, so I really appreciate that.
all righty.
All right. You have a great day, Bill. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
happy Father's Day, by the way.
Happy Father's Day to you too. Thanks. Take care.
See ya.